There's been now one confirmed case on U.S. soil, and New York State in particular is taking some steps to prevent the spread of Ebola. WENY's Asha McKenzie joins us live in the studio with more. Asha?
John, some New York State 911 dispatchers and military members are all looking out for possible Ebola symptoms, even though the director of the CDC says there is progress in the fight against the disease.
Ebola seemed like a somewhat foreign problem until last week, when Thomas Duncan was named the first person to be diagnosed with the fatal disease on American soil after visiting West Africa.
The enemy here is a virus. The enemy is Ebola. Not people, not countries, not communities, a virus.
As Ebola takes more lives overseas and the fear of it spreading in America grows, the U.S. is ramping up security, doing what it can to prevent an Ebola pandemic here.
We know what has to be done, and we've got the medical infrastructure to do it. But this is an extraordinarily virulent disease when you don't follow the protocols.
New York State is also taking the necessary precautions. In New York City, 911 dispatchers are asking two new questions when people call in with Ebola-like symptoms. Have you been to West Africa in the last 3 weeks? And if so, have you come in contact with someone who has the disease? And a U.S. Coast Guard sector in New York says it will contact ships that have recently been to Ebola-affected countries, asking if any passenger is exhibiting symptoms before they are allowed into port. New York Senator Chuck Schumer weighed in, saying you can never be too careful with something like Ebola.
We're asking for two things be done at U.S. airports for those who come from the Ebola hotspots when they arrive. One, take their temperature. Two, these much more extensive screening and list of questions that might detect if they had contact with people who have Ebola.
Now, although there is no federally approved drug to treat the virus, the two Ebola patients in the U.S. are being treated with an experimental drug called ZMapp. Asha McKenzie, WENY News.